Hi, I'm Chuck Brinkman, and this is the second video of a 9-video series, Steps to Homeownership. We're going to be talking about credit evaluation. We've discussed in the first video, is it a good idea to rent or to buy, and the advantages of each. We've got several more videos coming afterwards, but this one is going to be specifically about credit. Everybody needs it and how to manage it. So how's the credit? Well, there's several steps in considering your credit score. First thing is you need to realize it's very important. If you want to buy a house, unless you've got a rich uncle or you're going to win the lottery, you're going to need a mortgage in order to do that. And a mortgage company is always going to check your credit. So the first thing you need to do to understand how to play this game is how to check your own score. You can go to the 3 different credit agencies, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion if you want, and they'll give you the score and they'll give it to you for free once a year. However, an easier way to do that is to go to a website that you can find just by doing a search in one of your search engines like Google. Just put in free credit report. And then you kind of got to look a little bit. I have used the one that's www.freecreditreport.com. What I want is something that's going to actually be free and that's going to give me all 3 scores, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, and it's going to give me the scores, not just the reports. Many places will give you the reports for free and then charge you for the scores. I'm willing to sign up for one of their credit monitoring programs to get the scores. I then cancel the program before they actually charge me, so it's all free. It's a little bit of work, you got to play their game, but you can get these scores and see the same things that the mortgage brokers see. So you need to know the scores. Once you pull that, you'll see scores that range from 300 or 350 to 850. And if your scores are in the high end, then you're going to have all sorts of credit available to you, and you're going to have it at low cost. And that's really important, because if your scores are at the lower end, basically below 600, life with regard to mortgage companies is going to become difficult. So what we're going to talk about is how to try and bump that score up, and then to make sure that you don't make mistakes that you might not even think are mistakes that can affect your score and therefore your ability to get a good mortgage. So, do you qualify? Well, a year, 2, 3 years ago, when credit was loose and mortgages were being created very easily, you could have a 560 or a 580 credit score. Oh, let me stop for a second. When I call your credit score, you're getting 3 different scores from 3 different agencies. The way the mortgage companies are going to handle that is they're going to throw out the low score, throw out the high score, and only use the middle score. They do not add them up and average them. They throw out the low, throw out the high, and take the middle. So when I talk about your score from this point forward, I'm talking about the middle score. Well, that middle score, if it isn't over a 620 right now, in February of 2010, it's going to be hard for you to get a mortgage, because almost every mortgage right now is backed by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. And if you don't have those scores, then those systems aren't going to work. The investors aren't going to buy those loans, the banks aren't going to make them, and you're not going to get the loan. So you've got to have at least a 620 these days. And one other recent change is that if your score is a 630, your pricing is not going to be as good as it would be for somebody that has a 700 or 750. Intuitively, that makes sense. The better the credit score, the lower the risk, the lower the cost should be for the loan. But it's not the way it used to be done. Well, now it is. So what can you do to quickly boost your score? Well, the answer to that question requires that you understand what affects your score. There's several parts to it, and we're not going to go over all of them, just the big ones. The biggest thing, of course, is you've got to pay things on time. If you have a history of not making payments, that's going to be a problem, and you're going to pay for that in your score. But there are some other things that are relevant that you might not think make a big difference. For example, the credit bureaus want to see that you have access to credit that you're not using. They want you to have economic margin. So for example, if you have a $1,000 credit limit on your credit card and you use less than $100, every month, they're going to like that because they're going to see you've got credit available and you use it responsibly. They're also going to see that in a pinch, you have some margin. If you were to be out of work for a little while, you could go to that credit card and access money. On the other hand, if you have a $5,000 limit and you have $4,900 out on that limit, they're going to ding you very hard for that because they realize that all it takes is a little speed bump in life and you're going to be upside down, you're not going to have any room to recover, and bad things are going to happen. So one of the easiest ways to improve your credit score is to pay down credit card balances to 30% or less of the available limit. That's a big deal. The good news on that is that it's the one way that you can often add 30, 40, or 50 points to your credit score very quickly. And mortgage brokers will regularly look at that and try and encourage you to do that so that the score will go up. What else can you do to boost your score? Well, most of the other things take time. You've got to establish a payment history that you are a reliable payer. It's hard to do that quickly. If you have done things that really screwed your credit up, like a bankruptcy, a foreclosure, a repossession, or a lot of judgments and collections, those are not going to go away quickly. But if you've got credit cards that are maxed out, that's something you can fix. Little side note, what you don't want to do is close cards. If you close a card, then you've just taken away economic margin. You've just eliminated a possible place that you could go if you got into some sort of financial trouble. Credit bureaus don't like to see closed cards. Do not consolidate all of your cards onto one and then close the others. It's better to have multiple cards with low balances than just one card that's all maxed out. What about errors on your report? Well, errors do happen. The bureaus are not perfect. You should go in, look at your report, and if there's anything that you don't think might be yours, contest it. That process is pretty simple. It can all be done online with just clicking boxes. What happens then is the onus of responsibility is transferred to the company reporting, the lender or the credit card or whoever's on there. They have to prove that that is a valid charge or it goes away. So go ahead and dispute things freely if you think that there may be an error on your report. And then finally, what are my options if my credit is low? Well, if your credit is like a 400, you're not going to be getting a loan for a long, long time. So then you need to get creative. And you probably need to find a seller who's willing to owner finance or allow you to assume their mortgage. And in that case, I have a couple of properties that's been the only way I've been able to sell. Well, a little side note, those are not always the best properties because the best properties can be sold easily to somebody who can get a mortgage and the seller doesn't need to do anything creative. So if you don't have good credit, you're going to either need a large down payment or you're going to need to be willing to accept a property that's been a challenge for a seller to get rid of. So credit is very important and it's the second step in the 9 steps to homeownership. And in the next video series, we'll be talking about affordability. How do I buy a house that's within my price range? So we'll look forward to seeing you there.